It's Monday, August 8th, and this is Drive Check, a Cardfight Vanguard podcast. Well, I have to make a very important decision that's going to affect several people's lives. For many years, Cole, I have carried the title of having the most beautiful blue eyes on any man in the world. And I'm getting older. I'll admit, right? I'm in my 40s. My beauty is starting to fade a little bit, and my eyes are a little tired. And now I have to decide between you and Micah who has the best blue eyes of any man in the world. It's a hard choice to pass this, trophy on to. You're both so different. Your blue eyes are kind of dark in color, very clear looking, and Micah's are very bright, very very light colored and solid.
Yeah, kind of like ice.
Yeah. So, boy, this is going to be a hard one, but we'll keep track of it.
Yeah, you should probably think about that for a little while.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to make a quick decision because this is a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
Well, at least until you're in your 40s and your looks start to fade, et cetera, as things have gone on. So tonight we're not going to have Jack with us.
What?
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's got to take care of some family business, and he couldn't get in with us to record. And I think I have a few disclaimers about our episode this evening, even though we're counting this as a regular episode. I think first off, we're probably not going to have as much Vanguard as people would like to hear on a normal episode, Vanguard news and such, just because we have other things to cover. But we are going to talk about some Vanguard because Vanguard did exist for us, but we're primarily going to focus on wrapping up our experiences at Gen Con, which we didn't get to do on Saturday evening in a late night podcast or recording. Also, we may have some more adult themes in tonight's episode. Nothing illegal, but if people don't like adult themes, it's not going to be explicit either. Then, I would also recommend just going on to our next normal episode where we'll probably talk about the news that has leaked about Set 8 of Cardfight Vanguard. But if you want to be entertained with ridiculously stupid stories and adventures of Cole and Will, you got to stay with us. Do you agree, Cole?
I totally agree.
All right. So I don't think we've made any mistakes since early Saturday morning when we last recorded. It's Monday night now, other than me trying to drive from Indianapolis to DC overnight, leaving at 7 p.m., leaving Indianapolis at 7 p.m. and arriving in DC at 8 a.m. That'd be a 13-hour drive there, if anyone's counting. I actually think you tweeted me, Cole, that you were home already, and I was asleep at a rest area still in Indiana by the time you got home. I've got serious con crud. I got a wicked case of the cold or whatever was going around, so that's why I sound so deep and mellow in my tones, and Cole's gonna have to do most of the talking probably.
All right, I try to remember everything.
Oh, we know that's not gonna happen. So where did we leave off? It was Friday night at Gen Con, 3 a.m. for us, midnight for Jack. We did that recording, then we went to bed. I think we both we slept about 5 hours, about till 8 or 9 o'clock on Saturday morning.
It's about till 9, I think.
Yeah, and then got up. So Cole and I were sharing a hotel room at that point, if anybody didn't pick up on that. I got up and got ready first because I don't sleep late ever. And then once I was getting going, I think Cole, you got a call from work because you got in trouble.
Yeah, I got in trouble, which has been cleared out for the most part. So
okay, cool. I don't want you to lose your job for having fun and entertainment at Gen Con.
Yeah.
So while you were getting ready, I redid my Messiah's deck,
Mm-hmm.
just based on some discussion that we had been having with Jack about some of the problems I was having from people who had learned not to fill their field with rear guards, which at this point, now that I play Amnesty Messiah and Exilix Messiah in my G deck, I basically, your rear guards are my food, and I can do all kinds of stuff. So I have updated my deck build to include 4 Chaos Universe in the G Zone and 2 Chaos Bringers as grade 3s, so that I can force cards from your deck into the rear guard circles and lock them and then use them for my entertainment.
From your hand.
You pick one. That's right. You pick one from your hand that gets locked, and then another one that's already on there gets locked. Cool.
Yeah.
Either way, I get something into the rear guard circle, which you have to then figure out what you're going to do with. If you can't retire it, then you have to keep that rear guard circle filled. Haha.
Yeah. And plus the way that you were playing, it was I didn't have any opportunity to retire those units and call something in place of them, because at the end of my turn they unlocked, and then next turn you just locked them again.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, so we did that. You packed up my binder that had Genesis cards in it so that you could look through them later in the day. But we needed to rush down to downtown Indianapolis because we were meeting up with all the folks we were at Gen Con with to see the, is it Sit Down and Shut Up or Shut Up and Sit Down? One of those.
One of those.
The British guys who review board games. We were looking at it. We were going to a live recording of their podcast. We got some sweet, cheap parking, which was bonus number 1. And Cole actually didn't have a ticket for that podcast, but some of our other folks didn't show up. So he got their ticket, and we sat through that. That was pretty fun. I don't know if you enjoyed it, because I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I'm not, but they were very entertaining, and I might just look up their podcast now.
Yeah, it's good. And it's only like once a month, so it's not too much of an investment.
Very nice, very nice.
And we did have that weird situation, which I still haven't resolved, where it's obvious that somebody who was sitting behind us during the recording of that podcast recognized me and my buddy Steve, but he didn't introduce himself. And I thought Steve knew who he was. And it turns out, I found out later, Steve didn't know who he was. So obviously somebody who listens to us, but did not self-identify. So I want that person to let me know. I'm so curious who it was. I'm not at that level of celebrity where I expect random people to know me and I don't know who you are.
You should really try on the Tuesday night podcast atmosphere, because he was in that for that podcast, but I don't think I saw him for the Pokemon podcast.
Yeah, I probably won't be recording with them anytime soon. You never know. I never know when I'm going to get called in on that one.
True.
Usually very last minute. What did we do after that? So that was from 12 to 1. Then
we went to eat, right?
Did we?
We met everybody at the hotel at the
JW Marriott, which was kind of our headquarters. I don't remember eating very much at this convention at all.
No, we didn't. We really didn't, honestly. We only ate food trucks twice, TGI Fridays, and B-dubs.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, yes, we went to the JW, and everybody was going to TGI Fridays for lunch. Yeah. So we went with them, and Micah met up with us. Micah, who is our number 1 fan, number 1 listener, listens to every episode twice. You got to listen to every episode 3 times if you want to beat him. So we all went to TGI Fridays, whatever, had lunch. Everybody was playing Pokemon Go. After that, we walked back over to the convention center. You went in to the vendor hall at that point. And I hung out with Micah because he didn't have a badge for Gen Con. So we kind of just found a space on the floor and played Vanguard for a couple of hours. He didn't try his Aquaforce deck again because that's like, I'm not going to say nothing is an auto loss, but It does not do too well against Link Jokers just because you have to have rear guards in order to do the multiple waves of attacks to get the power-ups with Aqua Force.
Mm-hmm.
And once you populate with lots of rear guards, I start to gobble them up, lock them, retire them, have my way with them as I wish. And it's not so good for the Aqua Force player. So he was playing Kagero. Did pretty well, but I did bring in, even in those first games, I did bring in Chaos Universe because he was trying to be cagey and not have a lot of rear guards, especially not in the front row. And I dragged him out, put them down into those rear guard circles. So we did that for a while. Tell me, what was your experience on the vendor floor on that first day that you were going through? Because that was your first time in on the vendor floor, right?
Yeah, it was my first time on the vendor floor and first time at like a real convention as well. So I walked around with our buddies Greg and Jeff, and we were playing. Greg really wanted to look at this game called Dreamwell, and it was pretty interesting. It had like tiles, and then you could rotate the tiles, and then different actions and stuff. And I liked it a lot, but it was a little difficult to distinguish between the different, because you're supposed to basically match cards. You have a card, and then you try to match the characters on the card with your two balloon pieces on the tiles. So you have to match the background, and you have to match the two characters, and then you get a point, basically. And first to 7 wins. And if you're the first person with 7, then everyone finishes the round. Or if you're I think it's the first person with 7, and you started the round, and you finished. Everyone finishes. Anyway, that game was a lot of fun. We demoed it with another random girl, which was. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of board games, but I did like everybody sitting down and then being taught the game together. So you're all noobs, so you're all trying to help each other. I like that aspect.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about Gen Con, right? Is all the game manufacturers are introducing new games, and so they just teach you how to play. They have people there to teach you how to play the new games, and you can find out whether you like the game or you don't like the game.
I found one game that I really liked after that. So after we went from Dreamwell, I forgot who made that game, but we went from that booth to we were walking around and we saw this vendor who was trying to sell their game called Junk Art. And what it was, they had a jumbo version, which I rather liked the jumbo version a lot. But it was you had the version that we played, at least, was called Montreal. So it was like kind of like a real quick speed version, I guess. So you had this black wooden base, and then the object of the game is to stack these wooden blocks that are in really weird and funky shapes. Stack them and be like the last person standing, essentially. So what they did was she handed out 3 cards to everybody, and then we would take one of those 3 cards and pass it to the person at the left, and then whatever we passed, they had to build with. And so I played with Greg, Jeff, and then another random guy. And after 3 turns of passing cards, you move to the person that you passed the card. You move to their station. So we kind of went around the table building. So the person that you were trying to screw over and make their tower fall was the tower that you had to go to next.
Yeah, so they were building the base of the tower that you would then move on to.
Yep. Okay. And you're the one, you were supposed to supply them with the pieces to build it. So you had to be what I was doing was I had to inspect their base and then see if any of the cards that I had would be either an easy or difficult time to put down. Where would I put it? And then what could I do after that, like to move on? Because you're looking at your cards. You leave the cards at the table, so you're looking at your cards, and you can, for the most part, strategize where you want everything to go. So even if you do get that card somehow, you know where you want to place it. And so we went around, man, I don't know how many times, but I think Greg went down first, and then Jeff. Jeff's was kind of sad because he just placed it and it looked great, and then all of a sudden it just fell over.
So when their piece of art falls, they're out?
Yep, they're out.
All right, okay.
you can lose one piece, I think, or maybe two, but you have to carry that piece for the rest of the game. So you're holding a piece, and this was jumbo version, so it was kind of obstructive. And you can move pieces on the block, but you had to nudge them with the piece that you're going to put on. So it's very gentle. And so it ended up being me and then the other guy that we were playing against. And it was crazy because we were getting real creative and funky. And I didn't realize how good I was at this game or how good I was at like stacking games like this. And I had a lot of fun and I ended up winning it. So I got a bag of pretzels and
oh, you got a bag of pretzels?
I did, and I still have them. I don't know if I want to open them or just frame them.
No. So the real thing is there's a photo of Cole playing this game, and I think there's like 20 or 30 people standing behind him staring in amazement at how huge his tower got to. Because he's like the best junk art player in the country right now. I don't know. But it's like people were just absolutely amazed at Cole playing this game.
I forgot about that because I was so in the zone. But when we were playing and when someone else like fell or they were getting like really close, you could just hear the audience was like, ooh, ooh, or oh, or woo, and clapping and cheering when you play something. It was so intense. And I think I sweat more during that game than I had walking around outside.
And it was hot outside.
It was hot outside. I really wanted that game, but they had the regular size and not the jumbo size. And to me, most of that fun was walking around the table and like actually using, like it was way more fun to me having the full size than having these dinky little, almost Lego sized blocks. So I almost bought it. I almost did.
Well, I don't think they'll ever come out with a jumbo size version. From what I've heard, that company, they demo their games in the jumbo size, but they only sell them in the regular size. So,
yeah, Jeff was talking about that, wasn't he?
I think Steve was talking about that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It was something else. Like I think they make Flick 'em Up, and that was an issue. So then, what else did you guys do on the floor?
And then we went to the Pokemon Center and we got our Pokemon goods. And then after that, I got lost. I wanted to check out the TCG player booth, and I didn't realize that it was an entire block essentially that you would walk around, and then different places were doing different things. Some you could buy the cards that they bought from people during that convention, or they had multiple places where you could sit down, and then they had like this cool scanner that I didn't know if it would work or not. I didn't stay around longer to work, but it was kind of like an overhead projector sort of, so it would scan the card, and then I guess it would tell you, go by how damaged it is, and then the price, and then how they would pay for it, or how much they would offer you to buy it.
And that's where you sold all my Genesis Perfect cards?
No. I almost did, but...
No, hey!
I'm just kidding. I forgot I was lugging around your binder as well in my bag. My bag was heavy that day.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Big bag.
Yeah. It's a soccer bag that I had with all my Elite Trainer, or most of my Elite Trainer boxes that were filled with all my decks and stuff. But after that, we went over to Bushy Road, where I met my friend and his brother, and then we were playing the new Bushy Road game, Ascendants of Aetheros, or Aetheros.
I think it's Aetheros, actually.
Aetheros, yeah. Okay, yeah. And that was fun. The guy who was teaching us we jumped in on a game that had already started because one guy didn't want to play anymore, and one guy was already there, and they were like 2 turns in. So the guy who was demoing it jumped us up to speed. And I like and I don't like that he didn't clarify things very well, but it played like Bushy Road games. So it was pretty easy for us to pick up because we'd all, or at least me, my friend, and his brother had already played Bushy Road games quite a bit. So we knew kind of how to work. But some of the wording, though, was a bit confusing.
So, yeah, just some background. So, Ascendants of Aetheros, I think, got released just before Gen Con started. It is I
think it was like released that Thursday.
Yeah, so on the first day of Gen Con. It is not a trading card game. It is
No,
a
it's
deck
not.
builder. So it is just a standard deck builder tabletop game, like Dominion or any other Kanzume Goddess, which is my favorite deck builder. But it is a Bushiroad deck builder. So the artwork and kind of the concepts are very similar to things that you would see in any Bushiroad game. But it is definitely a deck builder. It is the only game that I bought at Gen Con this year. So I'll talk about it when I get a chance to get it out, read the rules, and play it and everything like that. Definitely.
Yeah, it can be 2 to 4 player. It's better with 4 people, but anywhere from 2 to 4 can play. And all the artwork are pictures of girls. So I don't know if that's a turn off to some people or not, but I don't know. I kind of like equality in my card games personally.
Meh, whatever. So what'd you do after Bushiroad?
Then we went to the Tuesday night podcast.
Yeah, we went to that recording. That was cool. Because obviously those are friends of ours.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then, what did we do afterwards?
So afterwards, we were hanging out with Sean McCoy, who's one of the folks who works at Tuesday Night Games. I kind of forced him to talk to you about being in the game industry because, Cole has a trading card game, or at least a card game that he's designing. So I wanted Sean to talk to him about how you introduce a new game into the gaming industry, because obviously Sean has been successful at that. And, heck, if you've got a friend who's done it, might as well ask them for some advice and opinions, right? So we had a good discussion about that. I think he definitely had said some things that I hadn't thought of for you. And, definitely just ideas to keep in mind as you go down for, what you want to do with your game. Yeah. Then we probably went over to the JW again, because why not? That's where we lived. Yeah. And I think, what night did we meet up with Colin and Bryant and go to the food trucks for dinner?
That was...
It wasn't that night, because that was Saturday, because Colin was working. So where did we have dinner that night? Wow.
No, we did go to food trucks. We had an early lunch dinner. We went to food trucks after the podcast. That's what we did.
Okay, because that's when I got the margarita grilled cheese sandwich. All right.
So that's what you got. Okay. Yeah, and then I got
you got the Cuban sandwich?
Cuban, with the truffle fries.
Wow, I remember what you had better than I do. We ate well.
Tip of my tongue.
We ate well. Then we definitely went back over to the JW Marriott. And this is where the true Saturday night adventure began, because I had brought along some... I think it's polite to call them party favors that are legal in Washington, D.C., and we can leave it at that. And it was about 9 o'clock at night, and Cole and I each had one. And we're just, hanging out with everybody. Folks were recording the Dungeons and Dragonites, which was a special. Hopefully I'm not spoiling anything, although I think people know that was recorded at Gen Con. So we were just hanging out. You and I played some Vanguard. It was my Messiahs versus your Grand Blues. Yeah. While we were waiting for the party favors to kick in.
First off, let's say that match was kind of miserable for both of us.
Oh, that was the worst game of Vanguard ever. We both had to G-assist, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I know I had to ride a grade 3 that was not a grade 3 that I ever want to ride on the Vanguard circle.
And I decked out.
Yeah, and basically that's how I won. Is just I held out until Cole decked out, because nothing was working for anything except for Cole. Things definitely started working for Cole. So by about 10 o'clock, Cole was having a real good time. Put in an order for some hard apple cider, I believe. And I was just not feeling anything at all at that point. And they finished Dungeons and Dragonites. They were getting ready to record an episode. So they had some late night episodes of the Tuesday night games. Or Tuesday, podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so you and I were sitting there, and the rule was Steve had 7 mics for recording the Tuesday night podcast stuff. And the rule is basically 7 people for 7 mics, no 8 people, no sharing mics, nothing like that. And I looked at the number of people that were coming in to record that late night Tuesday Night Games podcast, and I was thinking, well, they're not going to need me because they have 7 people. And along with that thought, I was thinking, I really am not feeling anything of this party favor whatsoever, so I'm going to go and have like half of another one just to, give me a little boost. Also, let's also keep in mind for the visual for folks, Cole is about a foot shorter than I am, so that's probably a key indicator of why there was a differential there. Although I think we also determined that you digest things faster than I do.
Yes, we did.
So I went and had my half, came back. The minute I walked into the room, Alan from Tuesday Night Games and Steve started yelling at me, Will, come sit at a mic. We need you to record. Come sit down at a mic. And I was like, oh, I guess I am recording the Tuesday Night Games late night podcast tonight. So I sat down thinking, it's fine. I haven't had anything kick in yet, except that is exactly the moment that the first party favor decided to kick in. And boy, did it hit me hard. So I still have to listen to that episode back to actually remember what I said during it. I'm sure it was fun and entertaining. Nobody has mentioned anything to me about anything that I've said in any angry ways, so I think I'm cool there. But be that as it may, after I finished recording that, they actually had not finished Dungeons & Dragonites. So Steve, typically what we would have done at that point is everybody, with all recording being done, we would have all sat around and played 1 or 2 games together until late night. But since Steve was recording, we couldn't do that. Cole was 1 party favor, 2 hard ciders in. Yeah. We went to another room and decided to play Tada, which is a dice rolling fun party type game. It's a little bit loud. And Cole was having a real hard time.
What gave that away?
A real hard time. We could tell that was what gave that away was there are cups used for rolling the dice in Tada, and Cole fell asleep on one of the cups. Not sideways, but the cup was upright with like his ear inside the cup, and I mean literally asleep. So we went from there.
My eyeballs.
Yeah, and then Colin and Bryant showed up, and we played Happy Salmon to try to sort of get our blood moving, because you and I were just absolutely exhausted at that point in time, and I believe our friend Becky described us as looking like we were staring off into another universe, but either way.
That game was pretty sobering, honestly.
It was because of just all the running around and moving that you have to do. But what was supposed to be a 20-minute recording of Dungeons & Dragonites was like an hour. So by the time they were done, I think you and I were just done.
Yeah. Earlier that night, I tried to, while I was feeling it, I was trying to build a Genesis deck.
That is right.
And I spent 20 minutes looking at one card, trying to read it. It just wasn't happening.
You could not read the text on the card.
I would go through one line and forgot what I read.
Oh, Lord. I remember because he had the Genesis cards all laid out really nicely, and I was like, Cole, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm trying to figure out how to build a Genesis deck, but I can't figure it out. And then he actually got up and walked away from the table and left all the cards there. But also, when we were done playing Happy Salmon, we went back into the main room we had been using, and Cole explained his card game to our friends Colin and Bryant as best as he could, but he wasn't doing too good of a job.
No, he wasn't. He was not doing too well.
I mean, it was okay, but just you could have done better.
I know.
either way, after that, even though other folks were staying to play games, it was literally like 2:15, 2:30 in the morning, and you and I
Mm-hmm.
decided to call it quits. We'd had enough, so we went back to the hotel at that point. Um, and then slept pretty decently. I only slept 5 hours again because I'm not a good. I don't sleep well in hotels, whatever. But we got up, packed up. We had to be out of the hotel. Uh, we both woke up pretty well. I
Yeah.
think that was my first day of like really starting to feel this con crud hit me real hard. But otherwise, we did a good job packing up. The only major error that we made in packing was I had bought a double starter deck of My Little Pony cards, and Cole was carrying them in his bag, and they went home with Cole.
They did go home with me.
So now Cole's gonna have to learn how to play My Little Pony
Yeah.
trading card game, and it's gonna be awesome. So that day we went down. We parked in the more expensive parking lot just because that's where everybody else was. We
Mm-hmm.
went in and met up with Colin and Bryant again, and they were absolutely exhausted because where Cole and I had left the story and went back to our hotel and went to bed, they stayed at the convention center overnight.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to be first in line to pick up some games from the vendor floor. And they were actually in line 4 hours before the vendor floor opened. So hardcore, but they did get a copy of the Harry Potter game,
building.
which was really hard to get copies of. So
Yeah.
congrats on that. But so by the time we showed up, we were walking around. We were walking the con floor with them. We came across a place, and I will tell you all, listeners, Cole's face lit up like a child on Christmas morning because we found the booth that was the land of discontinued trading card games. And my lord, did Cole go nuts. What did you find, Cole? What did you find?
All right. I found my favorite card game of all time, Chaotic, there. And they had a ton of Chaotic stuff. I got 3 booster boxes for 12 apiece. And then I got 2 tins for 5 apiece. And then I got, I got 2 of the Bleach card game. I got 2 starter decks, 2 starter decks, and I got 2 Zatch Bell starter decks, or I guess starter books, sort of. Because yeah, and then I got 2 of the Mega Man Battle Network starter decks, and then I got 2 Battle Spirits, and that was my original haul.
Yeah, and then we walked around to another booth that had some old Bushiroad booster boxes.
Oh yeah. And then there was one in the bottom corner, and I asked what it was because it was on top of some other extra booster box, which was not important. And he showed it, and it was the Nova Grappler one that had all the Blau support. And I've been wanting to build a Blau deck, a Blau Kluger deck for a very, very long time.
Oh, you never got the cards out of my car. Oh, well, I have to mail them to you. Oh.
And I have to mail the My Little Pony to you.
No, that's yours to keep, buddy.
Really?
Yep.
Aww. Thank you.
It only cost me $9. It was half off, so that's fine.
True. Sweet. Okay. Yeah. So I gobbled up that thing, and then where did we go from there?
Well, and then so Cole and I had wanted to do a Pokemon TCG sealed pre-release because I had never done that format before, and I have an acquaintance is a guy. He got hired by the Pokemon Company, and I know he helped to design that. So I wanted to try it just because it's somebody I know who had designed it. I wanted to see what it was like, and that was starting at 1:00. So we had to basically at Gen Con you don't pay cash for things, you pay generic tickets. So we had to buy enough generic tickets to buy our way into the sealed deck Pokemon tournament, get all those transactions handled, sign up. We sat there, and as Steve reminded us multiple times afterwards, it was run like a typical Pokemon tournament, which is basically poorly.
Mm-hmm.
It took them about 45 minutes to distribute the sealed decks, and then another 20 minutes to actually do the initial pairings and everything like that, or whatever. We had a half an hour to build decks, and then it was just so late. And the one thing that I had forgotten, and I think Cole never realized, was on Sunday, the vendor floor closes at 4 o'clock, not 5 o'clock. So the clock was ticking on, and we had expected to be there for an hour. And I think ultimately it took 2.5 hours to complete.
No, we didn't even complete it.
Well,
either.
no, it never finished because the computer broke down and they gave up. But still,
Yeah.
that was like, it was like 3:30, and we were still waiting around for things to end. And I basically gave up. I stopped waiting, and I was like, there are some things I still want to buy on the vendor floor, because I hadn't bought Ascendants of Aetheros yet. So I left. I left you there. Even though we were both undefeated, congrats to both of us that we won our 2 matches that we did get to play. And I got Ascendants of Aetheros, and your friend Carl had mentioned had mentioned to you that he had seen Dot Hack, right?
Yeah,
that's what it's called, trading card game. And he's like, oh yeah, it's right by the doors that you use to get into the other section. And so as I was like running away, Cole, you were like, Will, if you see Dot Hack, can you pick it up for me? And I was like, yeah, sure, dude, whatever. So I went in there. And I started looking for Dot Hack. I didn't see it, so I was like, I got to get my Ascendants of Aetheros. Ran back to the place where we had seen it. On my way there, here's the part of the story you don't know. There was a booth that was primarily about buying and selling Magic the Gathering cards. And then in one little corner, they had booster packs for Vanguard in a box. And it was like $4 per pack, 3 for $10. And I was like, I will come back to this because I have very little time, but I would like to buy like $20. They had Binding Force of the Black Rings. I will buy 8 packs of Binding Force for $20. Why not? Have a good time.
Oh, yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah. So I went, got Aetheros, got lost, couldn't find my way back to that booth, found my way to the Dot Hack guy, and he basically had every starter deck that had ever been made for Dot Hack. I know nothing about Dot Hack. I didn't even know it was anime. But I was looking at them and I was like, my friend asked me to buy him some Dot Hack starter decks. I know nothing about it. Why, what's the difference between all of them? And each one was $4. So to get all 6 of them would have been $24. And I was like, maybe I'll just get them all. And the guy was like, well, if you buy one of each starter deck, I'll cut you a deal. And I was like, okay, fine. He's like, so yeah, for all of them, it's $15. So that would have been $11 off the price that I was expecting. And they were selling booster boxes for $12. So I was like, well, if you're going to cut me a deal, then throw in a booster box, and it's pretty much the same price that we were expecting. So you got every starter deck for Dot Hack and a booster for Distortion, I think.
Yep.
Which was one of the year or whatever releases. So you made off pretty well there.
Yeah.
After that, you called me back over to the Pokemon thing because at that point they had given up with their broken computer and were just giving everybody who had participated 2 packs, even though you and I were both undefeated and probably deserved a better prize than that. But whatever. I don't need Pokemon packs. I don't play Pokemon TCG anymore. I was just doing it for the experience. I got 0 good pulls out of any of those packs, so it's just sad all around. You and I both ran back in. I desperately tried to find that Magic booth where they were selling the Bushiroad packs, and they had literally sold the entire box of Bushiroad packs to somebody in the amount of time. And you guys aren't going to pick up on like the speed run that this was, because it was literally in the last half hour that the show floor was open.
Yeah.
That, like, it was within 5 minutes they sold all of the booster packs to somebody else. So I didn't get my chance to get my Binding Force of the Black Rings at a discount. From there, con was over. You and I went to look at the Tuesday Night Games booth to see if we could say goodbye to Alan and Sean, but they weren't there. Then we were wandering around looking for everybody else, and they went to the Tuesday Night Games booth, and they got to get hugs from Alan and Sean, and we didn't, which is sad. So we met up with everybody like randomly. We saw them walking on the floor, right?
Yep.
And went to Buffalo Wild Wings, a little Gen Con tradition. So, my group of folks, we go to B-Dubs, get incredibly poor service, and then get a discount on the check, which exactly happened exactly as it should have. There was literally one point after the 15 minutes that we had put in our drink order that some of the drinks showed up, that basically half the table got their drinks, and then it was another 5 minutes before the other half of the table got their drinks.
It was enough time for the half that had got our drinks to finish most of our drinks before he even came back with the other half.
And the restaurant was empty. Literally. Oh, but we had our dinner, left, took pictures. I took Cole back to the hotel. He took off, took Jeff to his car. He took off, and then I started my 13-hour journey back to DC, which I don't think I'll be doing again next year. I'm just going to stay another night in a hotel and do a well-rested drive. It's worth the money, as opposed to being in danger and literally seeing West Virginia at 2:00 in the morning. No one should have to see that. So, but you got home safe, right?
Yep, without a hitch.
So you live in Indiana, so it's not that hard for you to go to Gen Con, but would you do it again?
Oh, totally.
And what would you do? What would you do differently?
Make sure that I actually have the days off requested. That
okay. Besides that, would you come in before Friday afternoon so you could actually spend more time on the show floor and stuff?
Definitely. I think I'd want to get in probably Wednesday night, like with our other friends as well. That way I can kind of get a game plan going instead of just flying by the seat of my pants, which I usually do anyway. But while we were walking through at the end of the convention, I didn't even see half of the booths. And most of the booths that I walked past, they had stuff that I wanted to see. Like there was like a Lego one, and there was a couple others that I was really sad that I didn't even get to look at because I didn't go that way. I didn't walk that way.
Yeah, and I barely spent any time on the vendor floor this year at all, just because for me, the focus is always on being with my friends. So I did accomplish that. That was my primary thing. And I did not get as much time on the vendor floor as probably I should have with the amount of money that I spent on a pass. But whatever. There's always next year.
You were there for the experience.
Yeah. Probably should have drank more water. You pounded water. You had your water bottle with you nonstop.
Yep. That's how I live, Will. That's how I live.
Yeah, you're smarter than me. I didn't even bring a water bottle. So that's definitely important. Definitely important to get as much sleep as you can, if you can fit it in.
And hand sanitizer and wash your hands all the time.
Constantly, until your hands peel and bleed. Absolutely.
And don't touch your face.
Nope.
Don't rub your eyes. Don't put your fingers near your mouth. Don't touch your face at all.
Yeah. Play a card game. Play any game. Sanitize afterwards. Sanitize before. Sanitize after. And then you won't end up like me, with my nose is literally dripping right now. My throat is sore. I'm probably going to have to take off work tomorrow just because of how sick I am. But still absolutely worth it, just for all the fun times with my friends and seeing the people that I only get to see once a year, and getting to meet Cole for the first time, which Cole, I can't say enough how much I had a good time with you, and even surprised at how well we did together. That sounds strange. No. I think we hit it off pretty well.
Yeah, it wasn't awkward really at first.
No.
It was just like any other day. It was great.
Yeah, I like my little Cole. So next year we just have to get Jack to come out somehow and be part of the squad and really take things over. But I think that's going to be everything for us this week. No term of the week because we're a little run down and tired. But we will be back to normal next week. I know that a lot of cards have been revealed for Set 8. We want to talk about that. We want to talk some more about Genius Strategy, which will be coming out soon.
All right.
For all the Mega Colony nerds. And and all of that good stuff. So please, if you want to email us with any questions or anything, let's still go with will@pkmncast.com. If you want to tweet at the show, it is at drive_check. If you want to tweet at me directly, at Wash in the Sink. And Cole?
I am at Cole_McCune, COLE_MCCUNE.
And do you have a flavor text that we can read? Grab a card. Grab a chaotic card. Any card.
Annihilate the target. Terra XL Cannon.
What is that from?
Armored Heavy Gunner. A noble deck that I have right